Hey guys, this is Mario again, coming at you with another movie review. As you can see, different angle today. I decided, what the heck, I'll go with a different camera angle. Been about, I don't know, 5 months since I've done this angle, but let's go with it. Today I'm reviewing a movie that was a childhood favorite of mine. I haven't seen in a couple years, so I guess you could say this is a little ode to my friend Mike, OCP Communications. He's doing a series called Childhood Favorites. I don't know if I'll review any more movies after that, directly after this that were childhood favorites of mine, but I might do one or two depending on my idiom. Anyway, the movie is the 1987 movie The Monster Squad. I love this film, but the sad thing about it is it was a flop. It had a $12 million budget, only made barely even 1/3 of it. So it is kind of sad. It's one of those movies that did not make a lot of money when it first came out, but in years since, it actually has gotten a following. Like, its fan following is what got it the special edition DVD a couple years ago. I don't have the DVD, and I had to revisit this film through an AVI file. But I will say this: I've seen the cover for the special edition DVD, and it's like, who the hell is that kid on the cover supposed to be? Is that supposed to be Rudy? Is that who's supposed to? That's the only one of the kids I can think of who dresses anything like that. I mean, he has that when he steals the bow and arrow in the movie. That's the closest. Or is it supposed to be like Bruce from Bruce Campbell, or Ash is what I meant. It's supposed to be Ash from The Evil Dead, his son. Fat, thin. I'm the guy with the gun. No, I stole that from a YouTube comment, but it's still funny. Anyway, this movie is directed by Fred Dekker, which this and Night of the Creeps, even though I haven't seen that movie, is I guess considered to be his shining moment, because the only other movie of note that he directed after this is not really one you'd probably want on your record. It's RoboCop 3, which is kind of funny because a fellow RoboCop alumni is in this movie, Tom Noonan, who you may remember from RoboCop 2 as Kane. Where is Kane? And of course, he's also known for the movie Manhunter, in which he played Dollarhide. I haven't seen that movie, but I've seen that scene where he wakes the guy up. But in this movie, Noon plays a Frankenstein monster, and I have to say, out of all the portrayals I've seen, I have to say this comes the closest since Karloff to actually capturing the spirit of the original novel. Because remember when I reviewed both of James Whale's Frankenstein movies, I noted that in the novel the creature is articulate and he's sympathetic, and you can really see that he just wants to be accepted. In this movie, they start out, kind of parodying, I guess, without, going over the top with it. The whole thing, yes, master. But then slowly you get to see the misunderstood thing of him, and you actually see how the character in the novel is. Of course, it's not fully how it is, but it's pretty good for how the type of Frankenstein monster they're depicting it. It's good, especially with how his character is in the end of the movie. I don't want to give anything away, but if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Bogus. That's all I'm going to say. And Noon does a pretty good job. I did not even know that was Tom Noonan until I looked at him like, wait a minute, is that who I think it is? And of course, all the usual Universal monsters are in here, even though the movie wasn't made by Universal, it was made by TriStars. Or, no, wait a minute, they distributed it, but who made it? I don't know. They were distributed by TriStar, but Universal wasn't involved. We got the Wolfman, then he said it's a werewolf. We got Count Dracula, which novel's in the public domain, so they can't copy that. Maybe the way he's depicted, but can't. The Mummy and the Gill Man, though, they probably could. So I'm guessing they at least got permission from Universal to do it. And the effects in this movie were done by Stan Winston Studios, and they still hold up today. Like the Gill Man, out of all of them, is probably the most complex one, and it's a pretty good costume. I have to say, I know they're planning on doing a Creature from the Black Lagoon remake, or the Black Macaroons. I didn't have to do that, a Robot Chicken reference, but if they could get Stan Winston Studio to do even though Stan Winston is no longer with us, I believe his studio still does work. You know, his students. If they could get his studio to do it, I could see the movie being good. Because look who they got, Rick Baker, a master of werewolf creation, to do the Wolfman makeup. Even though the story was good but poorly executed, could have done an additional rewrite. And they got a bad director. The makeup for the Wolfman remake still kick ass. It does in this movie too. It's just, I guess you could say it's not as developed, but it's still pretty good for 80s. It's still very good werewolf makeup, and it still holds up today. Especially that transformation sequence. That transformation sequence was done pretty well. I'm talking about the first one and the second, both transformation sequences actually. And the guy that plays the Wolfman's human form, let me see if I can find him on here. I'm looking up. He's credited as Desperate Man. Let's see if I can find him. Here it is. Jonathan Grease. He does a pretty good job. What else did this guy do? Oh my God, oh my God, am I reading this right? It's the guy that played Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite. That's funny. That is just funny if you think about it. Uncle Rico. And then of course, Dracula's played by Duncan Regehr. Excuse me if I mispronounce this. I believe it's Regehr. And on this one list where Dracula was listed as a big villain, this was the performance that they put it under. And of course, this was only his second film, but I think it's probably one of the roles he's most known for. The only other big note role on here is, of course, him playing Zorro in a show that lasted from 90 to 93, The New World of Zorro, whatever it is. Other than that, nothing really big he was in. And I have to say he does a pretty good job as Count Dracula. Hard for him to... I have to say I'd probably put him in my top 4 favorite Draculas. Yeah, he's up there with Christopher Lee, Gary Oldman, and then of course the Dracula that started it all. That's actually called Dracula. I bid you welcome. That's right. He's up there. And then of course if I were to put a fifth one, my fifth one would probably be, you know, Max Schreck. The guy who played Count Orlok. Of course, now I've talked about the monsters. Now I think it's time I talk about the human characters. Basically, this whole movie, the plot of the movie, I should say, is basically, not the plot of the movie. The concept of the movie is if you take the Goonies and replace the Fratellis and the treasure hunt with monsters and trying to stop them. That's basically the gist of it. Because we have kid characters that are like pre-teens and they're like the Goonies, but they're fans of monster movies, which I kind of identify with because when I was a kid I always loved monster movies, you know, Godzilla, the early Universal stuff. So I really identify with them even now. We got Sean, who his parents, you know, they kind of have spats and stuff, and his dad's a cop. His dad is probably my favorite of the adult human characters. And he has one of my favorite, he has a line that's in one of my favorite parts of the movie. 3,000-year-old dead guys do not get up and walk away by themselves. I hate to tell you this, detective, it just got up and walked away. That's what George Carlin would probably tell him. And of course we got Patrick, Horace, who has another good one-liner. My name is Horace. Then we got Eugene, Phoebe, who is Sean's little sister. And of course, Rudy is also another good character in this movie because he's basically like, he's got some leather jacket, I guess, trying to be like a James Dean like type figure. And he's pretty good like later on when he has like the stakes and the silver bullets, like when he goes to distract the female vampires. What are you doing? I'm in the club, aren't I? And the actress that plays Sean's mother, I think I recognize her from somewhere. I'm checking. I know her from somewhere. I'm gonna check her Internet Movie Database because I swear it's that Mary Trainor. I swear she's that one actress from the Die Hard. Oh, from the Lethal Weapon movies. That's what I meant. I knew it was her. I knew I recognized her, and I think isn't she also in? I believe she was also in Suburban Commando. As you know, I said take a seat. Sorry, adjusting the camera a little bit. What's falling asleep? And so basically, I guess I could talk about the plot now. The plot is that there's this amulet that basically is pure good. And it's involved because there's this constant struggle between the forces of evil and the forces of good. And every 100 years, this amulet, which is normally indestructible, has a moment of vulnerability where it can be shattered. The forces of evil have always been trying to do this, but it's always been prevented. 100 years ago, Abraham Van Helsing tried to prevent Count Dracula from doing it. He managed to prevent Dracula from doing it in the moment where it could be shattered, but at that same time, where if you have a virgin say this incantation, you can open a portal to limbo and suck in the evil. That's what they tried to do with Dracula, but they failed. It was, good. It's a good news, bad news scenario. Professor, we got some good news, we got some bad news. Good news is we prevented Dracula from destroying the amulet. The bad news is he's still alive. And of course, now it's the next time that's going to happen, and Dracula has found the amulet in a small town. And it's a small town where these kids who like horror movies and stuff called the Monster Squad live. And they find out about it because somehow Sean gets his hands on Van Helsing's diary, but since they can't read it, they have to take it to this one guy who lives in town that they call Scary German Guy, which even though the actor who plays him isn't German, but kind of can't really tell, but he does a pretty good job, and this is, I think, one of his major roles. And the thing is, there's something that as a kid about Scary German Guy you would not notice, but the adults will pick up on it. It's right after they have him translate the diary, which there's another funny thing about that I'll probably mention right now. How they introduce him is when they meet the character is just funny. It looks like he's gonna kill him because he has a knife. Alright, boys, time is almost up. It is your last chance for pie. Watching that again, I laugh because I'm like, oh, I don't know what I think is funny. Now back to my main point about crazy. Why am I calling him crazy German guy? He's scary German guy. The main point about him is right before they leave his house, after he tells them the story about the amulet and stuff. Oh, I believe it's Horace says, "You sure know a lot about monsters, don't you?" "Yes, I suppose I do." And then he closes the door, and as he closes the door, you can see these numbers tattooed on his arm. Now, as a kid, that will go over your head. Like, I never understood that when I was a kid, but now, again, I'll watch the movie, I'm like, he's German? Appears to be, look like he would have grown up in Germany, maybe about the 30s or 40s. And then it clicks. He's a Holocaust survivor, which, if you really think about it, they probably put that in there for the adults to get the story behind crazy. There we go, call me again, Scary German Guy. Which I have to say, it's a nice little subtle touch to where you can see. And if you think about it, that line, yes, I suppose I do, really does ring true, because I don't want to get too political in it, but the Nazi regime was basically monstrous. And of course, just the look on the actor's face when he says that line, he really sells the point home. Of course, even though he's not also in the movie that long, Jack Gwilym does a pretty good job as Abraham Van Helsing. Now, I know there's some deleted scenes on the DVD, but I don't have it. But on YouTube, if you type in Monster Squad deleted scenes, you'll find 3 scenes that are not on the DVD, but they're in extended versions that are shown on TV. So if you haven't seen them, type it in after this review. What is my rating for the movie? I can't really think of anything wrong with this. It's about a little bit less than 90 minutes, so it's not really that long. It knows what it is and has fun with it. Like, it's just spoofing a lot of the horror conventions, like how do you kill a werewolf and stuff. It's just a lot of the dialogue. I don't want to give too much of it away, but it's a movie that knows what it is and it has fun with it. Anyway, that concludes my review. Oh yeah, my rating. 5 out of 5. That concludes on my review. Take care.